Okay, we're live. So this is a little bit different. This is Simon's New York Stories live on Restream. So if it works, it'll be in Facebook and in YouTube simultaneously live. I want to thank everybody on YouTube that you got me up to 150 subscribers on my channel. And, I know some people have like 11 million subscribers or something, but I'm not running a goddamn popularity contest over here. I'm very happy to have 150. So I want to thank all the people that did subscribe. The other thing, I want to thank Corey Kilgannon, uh, the news reporter, because he did an article about me. I'm in the New York Times. I'm in last Sunday's New York Times. It says Boardwalk Beach Bums Business, and it's just about me playing my upright bass or teaching surf lessons or whatever I do to get by. And I'm playing my upright bass on the beach. And so that was a nice thing. Check it out in the New York Times. And the other thing that I want to say is I had my operation uh, last Wednesday, so almost a week ago, and they cut out this pretty gnarly thing. It was like rubbery scar tissue with fiber scar tissue and a nerve in the middle. So they had to cut it out of my head, but I'm not in pain anymore. I was in pain. I remember one day I was skipping around here on the New York Stories. I was sitting in the back of the Worm van. The Worms were on tour, and we were going from Madison, Wisconsin to Minneapolis in a snowstorm. So we were doing like 20 miles an hour and skidding around, and we go over this big bridge and we look down into this. They have these things in Wisconsin that are called dells, and it's like you'll be going along through these flat cornfields, and all of a sudden there'll be this gorge, hundreds of feet deep. And we go over this bridge, and at the bottom of this gorge is like a tractor trailer truck that went off the bridge, like all fucked up. And I was like, whoa, shit, this is no joke. But I remember all of a sudden felt twinge in the back of my head, like an electric shock. And it was like this electric shock stabbing pain. And it never left me from I guess November 1985 to now. So what's that? 36 years I was in constant pain, and I finally couldn't take it no more. And I went to 21 doctor's appointments. I went to the useless clinic over here on 62nd Street. I call it the clinic shaped object. It's like a pretty useless place because my doctor died from COVID-19 and my other doctor retired. And and the place just got chaotic, like nobody gave a shit. So I switched all my shit over to NYU, Langone, and all of a sudden people started listening to me, and I would go to the doctor, and I tried to get this fixed years ago, 2000. I went to this doctor, and he was just one of these pill pushing doctors that wants to get you all strung out on whatever kind of fucking shit. And I told him, look, I got this pain in the back of my head. I want to get this thing cut out. It feels like there's this button in the back of my head. And so he goes like, oh, that's nothing. Your problem is you're depressed. Why don't you take these pills? And then he was trying to get me to take Ritalin and all this stuff. So so then I had a very dim view of doctors for a long time. I was like, they're just going to send me out for a million tests and try to give me pills. But I got to NYU, and they actually treated the source of the problem. So I went in there. I rode my bike to the hospital. It was by Brooklyn Army Terminal. So I rode my bike there 15 miles. They cut me. I took the train home. It's like a pretty nasty scar. It's pretty gnarly, but I'd rather have a scar in my head than be in that kind of fucking pain. Like holy shit, you know. so much less pain. I can't tell you. And the next day I got up, I lifted weights, and I rode my bike to Brooklyn again to teach. And I've been swimming. Today I swam 1.5 miles. I swam down to OV, the projects. From my house, I swam all the way past Hamels down to OV. Like, that's like 33 blocks. So it's like over 1.5 miles in the ocean. So it feels good, man. I had my jaw, where my jaw got fucked up. They fixed my jaw, cleaned it out, and now they fixed this shit, cleaned it out. So, like, I'm ready to enjoy my life, you know? And that's it. So that's for all the... look, Argerios Costaras. Hey, what's up, kid? Uh, so I have my operation, and now I'm gonna start. I'm gonna, I want to go practice my guitar, but I'll continue the stories, okay? So we're gonna go back from this week. We're gonna go back to April 1981, okay? So I had the Worms going for 3 or 4 months, and I was doing that, playing all rockabilly stuff off the rockabilly records that I had that I learned songs from. And I'd only written 2 songs in my life to that point, maybe 3. So we were just doing, like, good old rockabilly stuff. And I played a gig with the Outsets, and I was out tomcatting around, just kind of tomcatting around, being the way I was back then. And so I was up all night and to the next morning, and I decided I was going to go see my dad, basically because I wanted a nice warm couch to crash on and to raid the refrigerator, being a bum that I was. So I go uptown, and I saw my dad, and, like, I had the key to his house, but he was there. He was, and he didn't go into work that day. So I was like, "Hey, Dad, how are you?" And he seemed really happy to see me. And we were talking, and he said, "You want to go out to breakfast?" And I said, "Dad, I'm tired. I was out all night. I was out all night, and I haven't slept yet, and I'd really like to just take a little nap. And then when I get up, we'll go out to lunch." And he looked at me kind of sad. He goes, "You may not have another chance." At the time, now I realize what he was trying to tell me. But back then, especially with his broken English, I didn't really understand it, But then he looked at me real serious, and he says to me, "My son, you are in the best profession in the world to get women, but you must be like Andres Segovia. You must be like Django Reinhardt. You must practice 5 hours a day, like they did. I did not want you to be a musician because it is a very hard life. But now I see that it is your destiny. It is what your destiny to do, but you must practice every day to be like Django Reinhardt. And do not listen to your mother, whom she is trying to turn you into homophobe. Insert a homophobic slur here. She's trying to turn you into homophobic slur." And I said, "Okay, Dad, I'll see you when I got up." I laid down on the couch, and I was asleep for a while. But I was asleep, but I heard like a noise like that. Like that. Like a noise, but I didn't think nothing about it. And the phone rang, and it was an old friend of mine that I knew a long time from Central Park days. And they wanted to talk to my dad. They loved this friend of mine. They loved my dad. Well, all my friends loved him because he was such a fucking rascal. He was such like a mischievous, entertaining fucking rascal, and he would hold court, with all my friends. So I go in to look. Hey, Dad, my friend wants to talk to you. He's in the phone, and my father is lying there with his face in the toilet. His face is in the fucking toilet, and he's all limp over the toilet, and there's like pills everywhere in the bathroom, in his room. There's pills and there's all this stuff like magazines. It's like this tornado in his house. But my father was a doctor and he had all these medications and stuff. And in his house, they were just everywhere. Like, and I run over to. I thought he just fell down. I go over, but his face was in the toilet bowl. And I tried to pick him up, and my father was a big guy. He wasn't like me. He was like 5'9", 5'10", like 185 pounds, and kind of built like a bull. He wasn't like this little fucking mosquito motherfucker. So, like I am. So I tried to pick him up, and he was dead. His face was like this green, blue, purple color. His hair was wet from the toilet, and he was cold. When I touched him, it's like when you go to the fish market and you're buying fish and you pick it up. It was like he was dead. And I was like, holy shit. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know what to do. I was like in shock, like I was like, holy shit, my father's dead. And I called 911, and the firemen came. The firemen and the ambulance came after a while. Back in them days, it was like it took a lot longer for them to come than it does now. But they came and they were like, I'm sorry, there's nothing. The fireman said to me, there's nothing we could do for him. He's gone. He's gone. I was like numb. I was like in shock. My father's dead, and my father was kind of a larger than life character, because he could speak Spanish, English, Portuguese, Italian, the Sicilian dialect and the Roman dialect, and French fluently. He could also speak Creole, like the Haitian language. He could also speak Papiamento, which is what they speak in like Aruba and Curacao and I think Trinidad. He could also speak some Greek and some Latin. So, he was also a doctor of medicine, and he also loved the opera, and he loved the old school jazz, the hot jazz, like Django, Fats Waller, Louis Armstrong, Pee Wee Russell. He loved, he loved all that stuff, like the old hot jazz, Jack Teagarden, and then he loved opera, and then he loved Jobim and Sergio Mendes. So that's the music I grew up with in my house, So I was like, what the hell am I going to do? Then the cops came, and my father's dead. I tried to clean up the pills and everything, and all that shit, Uh, the cop grabbed me by the shirt and pushed me into the wall, and he was kind of pushing me, and he was like, you didn't get along with your dad too good, huh? Maybe something happened. So the cops were trying to sweat it out of me that I killed my dad, which I didn't, And I said, the cop, fuck you. I loved my father. We got along great, And my father was a very complex character. He wasn't always the nicest guy. He was a product of his generation, like the Archie Bunker generation, So, there's some of these Archie Bunkers even around here in Rockaway, they got a better heart than their exterior would suggest. So, like my father was like that old school kind of Archie Bunker like guy, but very macho because of his culture, but he had this other side to him that I got to know better, and I didn't even know what to do. Finally, everybody left. My mom came home and she just lost it. Really, at that point, my mom's mind, when she came home and found my father dead, my mom's mind kind of snapped, and she was never the same after that. She started just screaming and howling. The weird thing is that my 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 mom and my dad were very codependent with each other, and they fought all the time. They didn't get along. But when my father died, my mom like went into this thing. She never came out. She just went down this other thing, and it's like it's almost like she started her downhill path when she came home from work and found him dead. So like they took him away, and I didn't know what to do. I was just sitting there, and I went into the other room, and I had some weed. I got high, and I started practicing my guitar. I didn't know what else to do. When anything gets like really fucked up, I always just want to go off somewhere and practice my guitar. So anyway, that's the story about my father's death. So uh my brother took it real hard too, and and we, then after that my mom wanted me to come home and stay with her for a while. She didn't want to be alone. So like I kind of left like the Studio 10, and the opera story, it's in there. It's done. It's back in there, and one of the earliest stories. Yeah, that's another thing about my dad. I told you the story earlier, but he punched out this guy in the Metropolitan Opera House, and we got thrown out. But I thought that was like one of the greatest things that anybody ever did. So he was a real character. So then the Worms, we had Don, who's on the line right now, and then we had Mark Ettinger, and then Jono and me, and we started playing. So we were playing Studio 10, but then Studio 10 got raided by the city or something. It was a squat, and I guess some developer wanted to take it, some backroom deal, like, and so the Studio 10, they got thrown out of there, and we were. I think we played like Great Gildersleeves, which was some kind of like, I don't know, some kind of clip joint up there near CB's, and we were just playing around. But then Jono comes. He goes, "Hey, I met this guy Tyrone. I was uptown. I met this guy Tyrone, and he runs a couple of weed stores. He's got the reefer store on 81st Street." And back then now pot's legal, but back then it was illegal, and you had to know where to get it, and you had to know somebody. And they had these reefer stores. They would masquerade as like a candy store or a flower store, and you had to go in there, and you went into the back, and there was like a metal chute, and you put your money in the chute, and then a bag of weed would come back, and then you fucked off out of that place. And there was a bunch of them. There was one on 10th Street and Avenue B that later was like the Lakeside Lounge, and there was this one on 81st at Columbus. There was other reefer stores. You could also get reefer outside the Corso Ballroom on Thursday night when Tito Puente was playing. You could go up there and you could buy weed. So, or you'd have to know some like snobby hippie from Central Park that would make you listen to some terrible record that I hate, like sit through some kind of fucking hippie record for half an hour to get your weed. So those were your options back then. So this was one of those weed stores. So he said, "I know this guy Tyrone. He's got the weed store and everything, and he wants to manage us." So we met with Tyrone, and what Tyrone did is he had a van, and Andy Whitten, Zephyr, painted Joey Miserable in the Worms, this great tag with a worm with like a beret on and shades, smoking a joint. You saved Tyrone's girl from getting raped, and you were a cab driver before Jono met Tyrone. Well, wow, that's a. I didn't realize that, or I forgot. I might have forgotten that story. So yeah, Tyrone was a guy that was always around, like up on 81st, and that was like me and my dad's whole thing. and near Marty Taub also, and Johnny Sender, who went by the name Johnny Schneider back then. And Marty Taub was up there. My dad was up there. Uh, Don lived up there too. So we got with Tyrone, and Tyrone helped us out. Him and Jono went to the music store, and they bought like a couple of Music Man amp. Jono didn't have an amp, so now Jono had an amp. He had a Music Man amp, and then he let us use his van, and Andy Whitten painted these great burners on the side, Joey Miserable and Worms. And then we had a couple of other pieces of gear, like I think we had like one of those custom tuck and roll Naugahyde PA systems that were like a 60s or 70s thing. But we had some gear now, and anyway, oh, we got more chats here. Yeah, we're gonna get to that part, man. We're gonna get to that part, Don. So Tyrone helped us out. We also he paid for us to go do some demos. So I knew this recording studio, Variety, on 42nd Street, because my mom, when I was a kid, my mom used to do a lot of things at Variety when she was producing children's records. And she would take me there, and I'd sit in the control room and watch all the musicians. And it was like, I want to be a studio musician. And to this day, that's what I love the most, is making records and being in the studio and mixing and producing and playing. And I love recording. I just always loved it, and I think I got that love of it from my mom. So anyway, so I was staying with my mom's house, which I kind of, it was good for me because I could just be a fucking bum, right? And trying to live off money from gigs or like whatever. So we started. Jono was always really good at hustling and getting us gigs. So we were playing out in like the Hamptons and Long Island. And we played like upstate, and I know maybe Don could fill in. Going back to the Variety, yes, Sun Ra recorded there. So did Charles Mingus. So did a lot of jingle sessions. So now we're getting into the summer, and we're playing all over the place. Jono was just really good at getting us gigs. Jono got us a gig at Max's, right? So we actually we made the first Worms demos at Variety, and then we recorded there at Variety. We made 4 songs over there, and he put it out on a 45. So we had this 45 out now, and we used to go around and try to sell it at gigs and everything. And we had the Worm fan. And, go hang out with Tyrone, and, he had the reefer store. So we would all work there, and, and we'd all work there sometimes. We'd go, and there was this one guy, Lee, right? He's this kind of fat guy, Lee, and sometimes the store wouldn't be open. So he would get all the weed that he would pinch from the store, and he would sit out front and sell it to these yuppies for double the price. So now a nickel bag was a dime bag and shit. And he would sit out front, he was scamming everybody, this guy Lee. And we used to, you had to go in the whole shtick of that place is you had to go in and buy a flower for $1, and then you could go in the back and buy weed. And it's obviously he's paying the cops off, right? So then we played out on Long Island, and we were driving back from staying up all night playing Long Island. I remember that's the first time I ever heard the Start Me Up. That was like the last good record the Rolling Stones ever made, really. But that came on the record, and that came on the radio. We had like little AM radio. And then we played Max's, and that was great because I could say I played Max's. And Chuck came down, and he says to me, look, I just got this saxophone. I got it at the pawn shop. And it was like, because he was a flute player and a drummer. He wasn't no sax player. I was like, well, that's great, man. You want to play with us? He was like, I never played it before. I said, find me a B flat. So he put the mouthpiece in the reed, and he found B flat. And then they said, this is what they did back in the 50s. Find a B flat note and just go honk, honk, honk over and over again, and then go walk on the bar up and down, just playing one note over and over again. And you could play with us, and we'll call you up. So we started playing a jump blues number at B flat, and Chuck goes out there and he decides he's gonna walk on the tables, like right off the, I don't know how to explain it, but Max's, there wasn't, you had to dance in the back. It was all a fucking table joint, like the bottom line is something, right? So he walks on the tables and the fucking table turns over and he falls into the ground, boom, and his saxophone breaks. And Chuck melted down. He flipped out. He was screaming and hollering. He was making seagull noises, like, ah, ah, ah. He was flipping out. And Tyrone, bless him, Tyrone was like, don't worry. Tyrone was from Guyana. He was from Suriname. I can't really duplicate his accent, right? But he says to Chuck, don't worry about it, bro. I'm going to take it. I'll pay for you to fix the sax. So Tyrone paid for him to fix the sax. So, you know, and you know, Tyrone was a gangster, you know. He was involved in that life, you know. But he was really good to us. And I got to say that, like, all early in the days of the Worm's career, all the people that really helped us out were either selling drugs or they were gangsters, full-on gangsters. Those are the two personality types that really helped us back in the early days, you know. And oh, Mickey Amato, oh, thank you. How are you? I love all these people coming on with the chats. I'm gonna do this live from now on, whatever I do, the stories. So we played Max's, right? Thanks to Peter Crowley, who booked us. He's not on tonight, but we're still friends to this day. And so I still have that Max's poster on the wall right here. So a couple of days later, I'm at my house. I was hanging out with some friends of mine. I played my guitar. I fell asleep. My friends conked out on the floor in my mom's house too. My mom was just like, I'm still this way. Like, I love my kids, and I love all my kids' friends, and I love it when I'm surrounded by all these younger people, like my kids' age, and we're all just hanging out. I still love that. So it's like, my mom loved it too. So she always encouraged for me to have my friends around, you know. So we all kind of passed out on the floor, and it was my brother. And my brother said, Tyrone's dead. They just shot Tyrone. And so now I want to tell you how that happened. There was another woman. It wasn't Beverly. I think her name was Louise. Don St. Beverly's ex-husband was real mafia. But, okay, this is a fucked up story. But, okay, I was hanging out with Tyrone and this guy Eddie, okay, and me. And Tyrone had a bunch of different stores, and we went over to this other store of his, and we shot dope. And Eddie had dope, so we all, like, you know, we shot dope. To this day, when I went to the hospital last week, they couldn't get a hit in my fucking right arm. They had to put the IV in my fucking left arm because these are all fucking tracks. I still have them from the fucking 70s and 80s. See that? They're like, you can't get no needle in those motherfucking things. They're like fucking tracks. So we shot some dope. So we're sitting around, and I was gonna go see. And then so we're kind of scratching and nodding a little bit. I didn't shoot a whole lot of dope to where I was all over the place, but it was, I did a taste. You know, I was like scratching, nodding out. So then Tyrone went to this bar, and I wasn't planning to stay long. I was gonna split. I wanted to go play my guitar. I always like playing my guitar. I like playing my guitar now clean, but I always liked to play my guitar when I was high, you know, so I was going to go off and do that. But we went to this bar, and there was this other lady in there, Louise. And this is where Tyrone fucked up big time. This is what got him killed. He introduced me, hey, this is my ex-wife, Louise. And, you know, we shook hands and we're sitting at the bar, and Tyrone was, you want anything? I was like, no, thanks, because you can't drink and do heroin at the same time unless you're Charlie Parker. it don't work. It's like downer and then a downer. So I was gonna split, but all of a sudden, him and Louise, they started getting into it. They started arguing, and Tyrone went out and he hit her. He hit her really hard, knocked her down, and I split. And I was like, what am I getting involved with here? This guy just hit a woman. Like, my father used to beat up my mom, so like I was like, what the fuck am I getting involved with over here? This is like a really bad sign. I am this is like some sketchy ass shit. You don't hit women. Well, Louise's ex-husband, who I don't know the name of or anything, but Louise's ex-husband was a maid guy. Okay? So they shot Tyrone. Yeah, that's right. No, just straighten out. But I really appreciate. I'm so glad you're here in the chat, man, because like we're telling the story together. So it was Louise. So she'd been married to this maid guy, and then she was married to Tyrone, and now they were divorced. So it was. I didn't see Tyrone. I didn't see Tyrone for a couple of days, and then that's when I found out he got killed. And he lived across the street from the reefer store, like 82nd Street and Columbus Avenue. And he was coming up the stairs, and they shot him in the balls and in the belly, and left him to die like that. It was really, really fast. It wasn't. It was like 2 days later, he was just dead. And if I remember, a bunch of us and our friends. Yeah, it was Beverly's apartment. You're right. Louise's son lured him up. He came up, and they shot him in the balls and belly, and just left him to bleed to death in the stairs. And so uh, so Tyrone is gone. They killed him real fast. So a bunch of our friends. I remember Jono. I remember Sarah Globus, Jono's friend. A really nice person, and me, and we went to the cops. And this is like, for me to go to the fucking cops is a big deal, because like I think that's the last time I ever went to the cops for any reason. And I never trusted the cops and wanted to be around them for any fucking reason. And this really cemented my attitude about cops. All right, we go to the police precinct. And like, how much fucking money did Tyrone give these fucking guys every month to operate that reefer store, right? It's not like they didn't know. It was like, how much money was he giving them? And we all go in there, and they keep us waiting. We go in and we talk to the lieutenant. And the lieutenant literally said this to us: I got a lot better things to do than to worry about one more dead, the N-word. I'm going to repeat myself. This is the way things... Like, we live in a racist fucking country. We live in a country, there's a lot of fucked up shit. But like, even nowadays, there's less of a chance they could get away with that, because they'd be on some kind of video or I got a lot better things to do than worry about one more dead, the N-word. And you guys are his friends. You guys are into some bad shit. You better get out of here right now before I lock you all up too. So we left. So that was Tyrone's death, and he was our manager for Peppermint Lounge, April 1st. Thanks, Don. Yeah, we played the Peppermint Lounge. I think there's still posters around somewhere. So it was like April, May, June, July, August, September. He was our manager for 6 months, and then this shit went down. And so that was also kind of when things started really well, we'll get into it, but those those were some fucked up times. Like my father dying, and to this day I don't know if my father took an overdose, committed suicide, or just dropped dead from a heart attack. I'll never know. I don't need to know. Uh, and then the whole Tyrone thing, and then we wound up. Uh, the Bad Brains also had rented the Joey Miserable and the Worms van to go on tour. I wasn't on that tour, but John Joseph was on that tour. And he wrote about it in his book that they rented Joey Miserable and the Worms van, right? And so we wound up giving the van and all the amps, like it was a Music Man amp and a Music Man cabinet and like this little kind of fucked up PA head and a couple of little monitors. We wound up in the van. We just wound up giving them. Beverly started going out with Alvin Snake, the drummer in Blood Clot, and then the Bad Brains roadie. And she started going out with Alvin Snake. So like we gave her back everything that Tyrone had given us, just because we wanted to do something to help Beverly. I think we were probably helping out Alvin more than Beverly, but yeah, Imrose Trucking, right? Remember that? And so that's the story of 1981, my father's death, and Joey Miserable and the Worms, and Gangster Tyrone, and the death of Gangster Tyrone. I want to thank everybody who was here with the comments. Thanks, Don, for you couldn't have picked a better time to be on the comments. And thanks for filling me in, everybody. And I'm doing these New York stories from now on live like this, and then I'll save them to my YouTube channel. We're up to like 150 subscribers, so I'm going to go outside now. It stopped raining. I'm going to go outside and practice my guitar. I'm still a little tired from the operation and then all the swimming and surfing and everything, and a little tired, but I'm all right. I'm ready to enjoy my old age pain-free. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, Bob Berger, for hooking this whole thing up. And that's it. Over and out. Another installation of New York Stories. The next one will hi, Mickey Amato. We're going to get to the Worms tours also when I met you. Joe Flood, great to hear these stories, Simon. Thanks, man. Liz says hi, too. So, yeah, that's the Tyrone story. I still want to say thank you to Tyrone. Just like my dad, he did some really fucked up shit that I can't excuse for, that I wouldn't do myself. But on the other hand, he really helped me out, man, and he helped the Worms out. And wherever you are, Tyrone, thanks, man. Be good, Simon. Great story, says Andres Villamil. Thanks, says John Haberth. Joe Flood, everybody, thanks for watching. And Joe and everybody, and Andres, we got to do a memorial for Steve Antonakos, homeboy Steve. We got to start thinking about it and schedule it. Oh, you did? Wow, yeah. So we did. We played the Lone Star. We played the Peppermint Lounge. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. 1988. That was one hell of a year, man. Oh, more messages. And yeah, everybody's here that remembers Steve Antonakos. We got to do a memorial for him. I want to do it in Manhattan because Steve lived in Manhattan and we all played in Manhattan in the scene in those days. So I want to do it in Manhattan, preferably a place with a back line. And I just want to have some pictures of him up and just have everybody play. You know what I mean? Everybody get out there and play. So please contact me about that, and we'll all try it. I want everybody to go to it. And Don says he's stuck in downtown L.A. traffic. Holy shit! Oh, oi gewalt. For that, I wouldn't trade places with you for $1,000,000. Okay, guys, over and out. See you on the next one. Mwah.